Tony D and Little Joan, and this is a screenwriter's rant on Caligula, the ultimate cut, starring Malcolm McDowell, Peter O'Toole, John Gielgud, in a movie that's just messed up. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. The links are in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 14, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. It's not often I get to do a trailer analysis of an old movie like this, so I thought I'd embrace it. Man, Caligula's messed up. It came out in 1979. By the way, that's Helen Mirren, who's also in it, and she's still pretty hot. Still pretty damn hot in this. I don't know how old. Let's see. This is 1979. How old would she be? I think she'd be in her 30s by then. Still looking pretty damn hot. A lot of hot chicks in that. Some nudity. It's basically X-rated. It's basically an X-rated movie. And there's a lot of messed up stuff that happens in this. There's Helen Mirren again. Malcolm McDowell back in his A Clockwork Orange days. John Gielgud, Peter O'Toole. These were big names at the time, respected actors. And this is the late 70s, so you got to understand that at this time, like, it was almost kind of acceptable for porn. Like, porn was coming into this weird sort of pseudo-acceptance. Porn movies. Porn as an art form. They were kind of trying to push that. It didn't really work, but they tried. They tried. The ultimate cut reconstruction by Thomas Negovan. The original screenplay was by Gore Vidal. Or it was adapted from an original screenplay by Gore Vidal, who's a famous author. It was a Bob Guccione and Franco Rossellini production. Who directed it? I forget. Who directed the damn thing? So Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, Teresa Ann Savoy, I don't remember her, Peter O'Toole, with John Steiner, Guido Manari, Paolo Bonicelli, Leopold Trieste, Giancarlo Badessi, Miriella D'Angelo. Introducing Anneko Di Lorenzo and Lori Wagner, probably some of the hot chicks in this, featuring Adriana Asti with John Gielgud as Nerva. So he's not in it very much. Where the hell's the director? God, they don't have the director in this list? Let me go to the IMDb. Tinto Brass. I don't remember him. So Malcolm McDowell also co-wrote it too with Gore Vidal and Masolino D'Amico. So so what is it? Okay, so if you don't know, Caligula was a Roman emperor famous for his debauchery and cruelty, and he initially, if you read about him, Caligula tried to be sort of a man of the people, but he was emperor at a time when the emperors were like, you know, pretty much at the height of their power, and everybody listened to them regardless of what they did, how crazy it got. And he slowly, he just became completely corrupted. He wasn't really good, but he wasn't as bad in the beginning, I guess you would say. Maybe did a few nice things, but then he was notorious for doing terrible, terrible things. Now part of that might be history rewriting it, the guys who came after him rewriting it, making him worse than he was, but it's kind of hard to say. But the movie just, at that time, was like, I believe it was rated X. I believe it was an X-rated movie when it came out. They may have edited it slightly for HBO or something. I think that's where I saw it. I definitely didn't go to the movies for it. 1979, I would have been too young. They never would have let me in. But because it was an art house movie, they probably didn't well, it was considered some kind of art house movie. There he is again. It was considered some kind of art house movie, so they kind of soft pedaled it a little bit. Yeah, it's X-rated, but there's some education in there somehow. I don't think there was much education in this, because you just spend the whole time watching the movie going, oh, whoa, huh? So what's the story? Basically, Caligula is emperor. I think he starts as emperor, or maybe just becomes emperor. And he just gets more and more debauched as the movie progresses. He's in love with his sister. That's sort of a plot point. But, he just does. It's just an excuse for Hollywood to do some of the most outrageous scenes ever. They basically had an orgy in this. There's an orgy in it. Not basically. They had an orgy in it. And so there's a bunch of actors having sex. Like, they're having sex. It's not like pretend sex. Oh, they're having sex in this. There is bodily functions happening, let's say. So the ultimate cut, I don't know. I remember seeing it going, I probably would have saw it sometime in the early 80s when I was old enough to figure out, like, I either got it on videotape or I like caught it on part of it. I never watched the whole thing. It's kind of boring and pretentious as a movie, but you watch it going, oh my God, what are they going to do next? And he murders a bunch of people in horrific ways. Like, they bury a dude up to his neck, and I forget how they kill him. They show it in the trailer. I don't even think I tuned in that long. I mean, I just kind of looked at it and, oh my God, what is this movie? And then I got to the orgy scene and I'm like, I don't know if I should be watching this. And then I'm sort of looking over my shoulder to make sure nobody walks into the room while I'm watching it. I'm turning down the volume. I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to sit through this and explain why I'm watching it with a straight face. I think I'm kind of blushing just talking about it. That's how effed up it is. So it's a kind of a cinephile movie, You watch it because there's a bunch of famous people in it doing stuff they never did in other movies. And I was a huge fan of Malcolm McDowell, still am, because he was in A Clockwork Orange and a few other things I liked. So I wanted to see this, figuring I'm like, oh, he's going to do something cool. And then, like, it was way too much. It was kind of like, I think I've had enough. That's kind of my reaction to this movie when I was like, I don't know, probably was like 14, 15, watching it, my little mind blown, going, this is a little much for me. Could I sit through it now? Probably just be boring to me now. And what I remember of it, I only remember the sex. The sex and maybe some of the violence. Just Malcolm McDowell shouting to the crowd, I'm a god, basically, through half the movie, and Peter O'Toole in the background. I think he's dying of, like, leprosy, because he plays Tiberius. I think he's dying of leprosy, and then just a bunch of hot chicks running around naked, having sex with everybody. It's crazy. So, if you've ever said to yourself, wow, Hollywood, they weren't that bad, you should probably watch this movie. Because this was just the stuff they did on camera. This, to me, sort of embodies the kind of sexuality that was floating around in the 70s. Now, keep in mind, they were kind of in this mode of like, oh yeah, we'll go there, we'll go into this sexual area and we'll discover things and it'll be great. They didn't understand, like, well, you're just having a lot of sex and maybe spreading some diseases or knocking people up or destroying relationships. Like, they weren't thinking of it in that way. They were thinking of it as an artistic kind of expression, but yeah, it quickly got out of control. And but even into the 80s, like I said, a lot of the actors, when they have a romantic lead and they're going to have simulated sex in the movie, a lot of times they will just hook up if they're single, because first off, they're both good looking, and they're going to be acting that way for weeks and weeks and weeks. And some of them get caught up in it, but mostly it's just like, we might as well. We might as well. We might as well hook up. Our body language will be better. We'll be perfectly comfortable as a couple, intimate couple in these scenes. And then even if we break up, I mean, that's why a lot of actors end up hooking up. They hook up with their lead actress, and then later, they go off to make separate movies, and then there's a problem, right? I mean, you could understand that. This was definitely a thing in the 70s. Now imagine your wife goes to be in this movie. Holy cow. So, yeah, and a lot of guys I knew, the whole reason they got into movies was there were tons of hot girls in it. And they were kind of loose. And it came out of stuff like this, And to some extent, it wasn't a big deal. Yes, there were problems. Some people couldn't handle it. Some people shouldn't have and felt pressured, and that's not nice. But for a lot of people, it was just like, oh yeah, this is fine. This is fine. So yeah, it was considered like being a great actor to sort of cross that Rubicon, be naked in a movie, maybe have sex on a movie or whatever. That's kind of what it was. Now, not so much, because we have intimacy coordinators. I think that's probably a bad idea. I think it's just shunting all the responsibility to a position on the movie that they can then blame that person if something goes wrong. I think that's all it is. If you're working on a movie, I think it should be clear that you should be friendly enough as coworkers to go, okay, this is what I'll do, this is what I won't do, and the movie people should be upfront and honest with you what they want you to do and what will actually be on camera and whatnot. There are all sorts of rumors that, directors and producers trick actresses, and they do. They do. Sometimes they do. Because it is hard to find an actress who will do this kind of stuff on camera, even now. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was easier because it was kind of expected. Now, and they don't want to get sued, but also you don't get to see boobies in the movie. But this is the height of the boobie era. There are tons of boobies in this. Quality boob. So, would I see it? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'd see it after many years. I don't know what the ultimate cut is going to do other than make it longer and probably more boring. But as a movie, it doesn't really move. It's a 70s movie, so the pacing on a 70s movie was not like the frantic pacings that we started to get in the 80s and 90s. It is sometimes arduous, So I don't know if you'd have the attention span for it, newer people seeing my video, but it is a piece of cinematic history. So if you're a filmmaker, it is of interest to see how these guys pushed the envelope at that time and basically made an X-rated movie that everybody called a piece of art. So, and again, these guys were big names. And John Gielgud, he was a big name. Peter O'Toole, big name. Malcolm McDowell, pretty much at the height of his fame, I think, here. Helen Mirren, pretty decent name at the time. So, yeah. If you want to step back in time and see a very messed up movie, if you don't like messed up movies, I don't recommend it. Because it is kind of messed up. Things happen in the movie. You go, oh no. Well, I wish I had seen that kind of stuff. I mean, they don't kill anybody, as far as I know. I mean, for real. They kill people in the movie, but they don't. It's not a snuff film. I don't think. But there is a ton of messed up stuff in it and lots of sex. So Caligula, the ultimate cut from Draft House Films. Let's read the write up here. Absolute power corrupts in Caligula, the ultimate cut, an extensive reconstruction of the notorious 1980 spectacle, really 79. Shadowed by the murder of his family, Caligula eliminates his devious adopted grandfather, Peter O'Toole, and seizes control of the Roman Empire alongside of his wife, Caesonia, Helen Mirren, before descending into a spiral of depravity, destruction, and madness. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about right. I mean, it does have some, compared to movies today, these guys all were classically trained. So the acting is top notch. The acting is top notch. So I'll say that. But yeah, it is pretty messed up. And there's Helen Mirren looking pretty hot. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on the other platforms that I can't mention because YouTube. I will be tomorrow at the Cowtown Showdown Motorcycle Car and Truck Show and Swap Meet tomorrow from 10 to 5. Now, there is some talk of rain there at the Salem County Fairgrounds. I'm just going to play it by ear. So, last time I was underneath an overhang. So I may go in the rain and just be underneath the overhang and see if people come out. But if it's storming, I'll probably have to bail. But we'll see. I already paid for the table. I don't think they're going to move it, and I don't think I'm getting my money back. So maybe I will get an email from Motorcycle Monthly Magazine if they decide to cancel, if the storm's going to be super bad. But we can never tell in South Jersey because they canceled a bunch of things last weekend, and it hardly rained at all. It rained late at night, but in the day they could have had their events and they would have been done by the time the rain hit. So it may be the same sort of thing tomorrow. So I'll try to keep you apprised. If I cancel out early, you'll definitely know from something on my social media. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Oops, wrong button. We'll see you in the next one.